Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about Locke and Key Season 3. Locke and Key has consistently been one of my favorite TV shows available on Netflix. So when Season 3 dropped in the middle of last week, I had to binge watch it, obviously. Just as a forewarning, there may be spoilers from Season 1 and Season 2 in this review, so if you haven't seen those seasons or you haven't seen my non-spoiler reviews for those seasons, go back and watch those and then come back here. Without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a TV show great. 1. The plot. At the end of Season 2, we saw the character of Frederick Gideon come back to life and look forward to terrorizing the Locks in the here and now. So he sets out on a mission to get all the keys from the Locks and try to raise hell on Earth by opening a portal to the demonic realm, much like the Omega Key and the Door did in the previous seasons. So with the discovery of some new keys and Tyler returning from his time away, the Locks must use all strategies at their disposal to stop Gideon from getting what he wants. As much as I love this show, unfortunately, I feel like this plot was the weakest out of the 3 seasons. There's a lot that goes into this, so I'll try to make it brief. When I thought of the reasons why this season was not as good as the other 2, one of the things that came to mind was that it was missing the darkness of Dodge. Dodge plays a very minimal role in Season 3, and you see her in a couple flashbacks. So this storyline is missing a lot of her dark nature and a lot of the high stakes that were involved when she was still a player in the game. And after doing a bit of research, it turns out that those observations were well founded. Apparently in the comics, Dodge is the main villain throughout the entire storyline. In fact, Frederick Gideon doesn't even exist. And I know that Netflix took a lot of liberties with the show apart from the comics, and that the comics are in fact actually much darker than the Netflix show ended up being. But I think that Season 3 would have benefited from having a bit more darkness in it. For all intents and purposes, Season 3 ended up wrapping up pretty nicely, and I enjoyed the way that it ended given what they decided to do with Season 3. But knowing that Season 3 is much more Netflix than it was the original comics, that's pretty disappointing to me, and it's also a reflection of how I feel about Season 3. And again, one of the things that kind of bothered me about the plot is that it kind of reminded me of Stranger Things Season 4. Main antagonist is trying to open a portal to the demon world, or the Upside Down. It just really seemed to be semblant of that storyline. And seeing as Stranger Things is also a Netflix original, it's hard for me to look at that and not see a connection and think they kind of cheated a little bit here. All the more reason to stick to the strong source material that you have and give this show the originality and the darkness that it deserves to set it apart from the rest. So with that being said, I have to give plot a 50-50. 2 is family friendliness. Again, Season 3 is not as dark as Season 1 or Season 2, but there still is a medium level of profanity. There's some sensuality, there's some magic and darkness, and there's violence throughout. I don't think that the content in this show is necessarily ridiculously bad, but I think it edges just over the line for family friendliness, so family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. All of the actors and actresses that we've seen in the previous seasons did a great job. The acting in this show was never an issue, though I have to say that Kevin Durand and his cohorts in this season, their acting performances are pretty bland. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they were written into the TV show because they didn't actually exist in the comics. So the performances are a result of the script, which was fabricated. And there are definitely moments when you can tell that. While some of the things that are said and done in the show are clever, there were definitely some things in Season 3 that definitely should have been explained more than they were. I feel like Locke and Key is a show where you need to engage your critical thinking skills, thinking about how these keys work and what their impact is. Season 3, I think, struggled with that concept a bit more. But for the most part, the acting was great as usual, and the dialogue between characters was good as well. So acting and script get a thumbs up. 4 is character development. With the character of Nina Locke, I really enjoyed how they developed her character more in Season 3. They unlocked her memories in Season 2, so she was aware of magic, and in Season 3 we get to see her kind of take part with the kids when it comes to learning about these things and knowing what the keys do. And I thought that played out really well on screen. And though we've had a lot of character development with Kinsey, Bodhi, and Tyler in the previous seasons, I felt like there wasn't that much, which is a bummer to me because this hasn't been an issue in the past. They've had really good character building moments in the first 2 seasons, but in Season 3, the character development seemed to be pretty bland as well. Not to mention the fact that some of the characters that I really enjoyed, especially in Season 2, didn't show up in season 3. You may see glimpses of some of these characters here and there, but there's no depth to them in this season, which was a bummer because after including a lot of them in season 2, I thought for sure that they'd have a bigger part in season 3. And most of all, Frederick Gideon is a super bland villain, but we don't get any character development with him, and in fact the relationship between him and Josh Bennett, and how in some odd form they're related, never becomes a factor in season 3. Another thing to mention is that they try to do something kind of weird with Kinsey's character. In a couple moments of this season, they have her sing. Both times it just feels really forced and awkward, and one of the times that she started singing, it really felt out of place with what was happening in the scene, so my wife and I were both cracking up laughing. And the scene was supposed to be serious and heartfelt, and it absolutely wasn't. It just was kind of a weird thing for them to try to include, and it kind of makes it seem like they're trying to get people to look at her for her singing ability so she can get cast after season 3 is over. Whatever the reason, it played out really poorly. So to basically sum it all up, the further that Netflix strays away from the source material of Locke and Key comics, the worse the show gets, and the more plain the characters become. So I have to give character development a thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. The visuals and CGI in season 3 continue to be just as good as the previous seasons. I think the first 2 seasons definitely had more creative shots, and there were some cool perspectives, but nothing like season 1 or 2. But even in the absence of those moments, the visuals and CGI were awesome. So visuals and CGI get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. I gotta say Locke and Key is my favorite TV show on Netflix. But even with that being said, Season 3 of Locke and Key was a bit of a letdown. There are a lot of things to hold your interest going through Season 3, and of course so much of the concept of this series is just brilliant. But even with those things, Season 3 is rewatchable because it adds a nice bow on top of the series as a whole. So regardless of my disappointments, Season 3 is definitely rewatchable. Thumbs up. With all those areas considered, I have to give Locke and Key Season 3 a 7 out of 10. Season 3 really tried to ride on the back of its 2 previous seasons, and it did until it didn't. Obviously all the beloved characters we got to see great performances from, but the main antagonist was weak, the plot wasn't very strong comparatively, and Season 3 was missing the darker tone that made the first 2 seasons really interesting. Which pains me to say because I really like this show. But the takeaway that I get from Season 3 is, I want to go read the comics. So with that being said, even though Season 3 was the weakest of the 3, Locke and Key overall is a TV show definitely worth your time investing in. So go check it out on Netflix. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen Season 3 of Locke and Key, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.